Instant karma and regret for my cheating wife. Hey, True, I hope you find my email and it's worth reading. I believe my story can help some young guys out there. Keep them from making the stupid mistake I made, getting married. Although I'm glad my ex wife received karma and it was a pleasure watching her crawl back to me, I still was very hurt. Not necessarily because she cheated on me, but because I was so dumb enough to fall victim to her, allowing lust to take over me. Just because I found her extremely attractive, I ignored a lot. Things like her initially telling me she doesn't drink much, but then seeing bottles of Hennessy and tequila and wine in her home when I first visited. Her telling me that she was abstinent when we met and she had been for 2 years, and seeing empty condom boxes in her trash in her bedroom the first time I was visiting. I ignored all of that and accepted the dumb lie she told me. I discovered that my now ex-wife was a recovering alcoholic and a sex worker. We were only married for 5 months. I met her in 2002 and we married in 2003, exactly 1 year later. Very quick wedding. Parents and some family from both sides. Not big at all. When I met her, I was out shopping at a strip mall, enjoying the spring weather. I just needed to go to Barnes and Noble. Even though there was one closer to where I lived, I wanted to get out and shop a bit. After buying a couple books, I go from store to store and decided I'd have lunch there. While eating outside, I see this gorgeous woman, 5'3", slim and thick in the right places. She was phenomenal. I yelled out, "Hey, excuse me." She was walking towards me. I said, "Hey, don't I know you?" It just came out. I didn't know what to say, but I was just going to freestyle this thing. She says, "You do look familiar." I ask her name and she says, "Rose." Real name, by the way. I said, "Wow, how fitting." She smiled and we shook hands. "My name is Thomas. I thought I knew you, but I was mistaken. But I'd love to get to know you." She says, "Wow, that was smooth." I invited her to sit with me and was asking if I could buy her some food. I got her a drink, strawberry lemonade, and we talked. I ended up sharing my food with her. It was great, man. Afterwards, we ended up walking over to the theater and watching a movie together. It was like we'd known each other for years. Cuddled up in the theater and we ended up kissing mid-movie. She gave me her number and went our separate ways. I called her later that night and we talked for hours. It was just easy. We vibed so well. We ended up hanging out several times throughout the week, and the fifth time going out. By the way, we went Dutch every time after that movie date. Her suggestion. After the fifth date, I tried to get her to my house and she knew what I wanted to do. That's when she told me she was abstinent and she thought it would be too early for us to be at each other's homes. I respected it and thought I struck gold with a good girl. We continued to date, going Dutch on each date. We did make out a lot and eventually we got it in at my place after dating for 7 months. Yes, she made me wait 7 months. I was okay with it though. I really liked her and I thought she was totally worth it. I proposed to her 10 months after we met. It felt so right. We married in 2003 and this is when things really started to unravel. Before, I did mention that when I first went to her house, I noticed tequila bottles and open-use condom boxes in the trash can. I discovered all of that after we started making love, but I ignored it and believed her when she told me those things were old. So either of our leases weren't up for another 7 to 9 months. The plan was to keep both places, but she'd slowly move into my place. One day, we were at her home packing some stuff when she got a call from work asking her to come in. She didn't work too far from her apartment. She ran to complete those tasks, and she told me to wait until she got back before I packed anything else. Like any other person would, I took advantage and started snooping. I just wanted to be nosy. I went into her top drawer, and under some garments were an envelope, a large envelope. I took the papers out, and it was a certificate and other stuff. The certificate was a certification of completion. She completed an alcohol rehab. She had just completed when I met her at that strip mall. She'd never told me about this. That explained all the alcohol bottles. I then found a diary. I wish I would have never opened that diary. She wrote about every guy she slept with and how much money they paid her. She had some guys' names in there with their phone numbers and notes saying they're too cheap, how big or small their packages were, all types of details, kinks that the guys liked. It was gross. And she performed these things. Things I'd never ask her to do with me. Some guys paid her thousands of dollars, some as little as $400. Page after page, man after man. One guy in there she called Big Daddy. She wrote how he's husband material and she wanted him to leave his wife for her. All of these entries were dated. She was dealing with some of these guys while we were dating. It got completely confirmed when I found her cell phone. In the drawer was a cell phone without a passcode. I had to power it on, but it was full of juice. Messages of guys setting up dates, men texting her asking, where has she been? They need their behinds handled. I was disgusted. A lot of unread text messages in there. It looked like she stopped this once we got married, but doing this while we were together still is cheating and grounds for divorce. I heard her walk in and I stood there with everything in my hand. I asked her, so you were an escort? She yells at me, how dare you go through my things? I told you not to go through my things. What is wrong with you? Those are my things. This is my privacy. You also went through my diary? Screw you. I didn't allow her to gaslight me. I continued, you were an escort? Answer the question. She says, well, you went through my thing, so clearly you already know. Yes, I was, but I stopped once we got together. I said, also, you had a drinking problem. She said, yes. It looks like you went through my personal belongings in my envelope. Yes, I had a drinking problem, and I got help for it. This was all before you. I told her that I read all of the dates. I read the diary. You were escorting while you were dating me. She says anybody can do whatever they want if they're dating somebody. If we're just simply dating, then I can sleep with who I want to and do what I want to. If there's no ring on my finger, then I don't have to be monogamous. I said, so when we both decided to be in a monogamous relationship and be committed to one another before we got married, I was the only one to be monogamous? She lied straight to my face and said, we never had that conversation, and we clearly had that conversation. I told her I'm getting a divorce, and we're done, and I walked out. She just yelled profanity on my way out, upset that I found her out. She didn't really seem to care, though. I got all the way to my car and noticed that I forgot my car keys sitting on the table. I went back to her apartment, went inside, and yelled, hey, I'm getting my car keys. And all I hear is a bottle hit the wall and shatter. I ran back. She's sitting there crying. I can smell the booze. Clearly, she had just grabbed a bottle and started drinking. She threw it up against the wall and broke it. And I said, you did this. You hid all this from me. How do you know when you first met me, and if you told me all of this about yourself, that I would not have accepted it and accepted the fact that you were trying to better yourself and be a changed woman? I probably would have given you a chance if you would have been honest with me. But we are done. She just kept crying, and I left. I got an annulment. The divorce was very, very easy. I was hurt, man. Really, really hurt. I later learned after our divorce that my ex-wife fell back into drinking. How I found out was because one night I was shooting pool at a bar, and she was there. I never even noticed she was the loud one sitting over on the couch going off on people. She was drunk out of her mind, and the guy she was on a date with ended up leaving her saying she was embarrassing him. When she started stumbling over to the pool table, she yelled my name. That's when I knew it was her. Tom Tom! Tom Tom! Is that you? I said, Rose, what the heck? She stumbled over and fell on me, trying to hug me. Then she tried kissing me. She stunk of liquor bad. She was torn up, and she was still attractive, but she looked pretty bad, though. I was not surprised to learn that she got hooked on drugs as well. I walk her over to her chair to sit her down, and she's crying, saying she misses me and needs me in her life. She then started talking gibberish. She said that George W. Bush is after her for what she did, and she needs my help. She needs a hideout just temporarily. I couldn't sit there and listen to that bullcrap that she was talking about. She had lost her mind. Rose, my ex-wife, had completely lost it, man. I got up and left. She yelled, Tom Tom, no! That wasn't the last time I saw her either. So in 2010, I was on a date with a woman I'd worked with before. She left our company to start her own business, and we kept in touch. It was a nice night, romantic. Now, the area is known for romantic lighting, and it's made for date nights. You can find everything in this area. Nice food truck setups, ice skating, it's beautiful. But everyone knows about one small part in the area where homeless people are. No one bothers them anymore, and they don't cause trouble. You have to walk that way sometimes to get back to your car, depending on where you're parked. We were headed there, and I hear, Tom Tom, but the voice was nasty and raspy. My date and I looked over, and yes, it was Rose. She looked disgusting, dirty, skinny, and clearly on drugs. She says, hey, Tom Tom, good seeing you. You got any money? Just a few dollars. I look at my date, and she said, you know her? I said, I'll explain later. I reached in my pocket because I did have a 20 in there, but I decided at the last minute that I wasn't going to give it to her. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have anything. She looked at my date and said, what about you? Please, I'm so hungry. My date said, no, and we took off. We got to the car, and I told her, my date, that she was my ex-wife. My date looked grossed out. Really? I showed her an old picture of us later that night and told her how she became an addict, and now I guess she's homeless. My date that night, we went on to date for 3 years, but she left me because I didn't want to marry. I won't say that I don't believe in love. I definitely do. Love is real, but marriage is just silly if you ask me. I don't see the point, and I'm definitely not going to do it for someone who claims they love me, but can easily walk away when I don't want to marry them. I'm not marrying you just to keep you. If you love me, then you love me, without the contract. I'd even go as far as rings or whatnot, but the contract? Never again.